Here's what we've got on the rundown. We're going to dive deep into the Mavericks' poor starts and even worse finishes. Then we'll see if OKC can tread water without Chet Holmgren and look at the conference standings because Cleveland has still not lost a game. And finally, we've got top performers. Yes, plural, because there was a perfect game and a 50-burger. You ready? Let's go. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Control Room. I'm your host, Esrael Johannes. Now, unlike the Mavericks, we're going to come out the gate swinging. Let's talk about their bad first quarters. In the first quarter this season, through November 12th, Dallas is shooting 44.5% from the floor, which is good for only 23rd. They're shooting 26% from 3, which is 29th. 71.4% from the free throw line, tied for 24th. 49.6% effective field goal percentage, which is only 26th. And they have a 53.1% true shooting percentage, which is 24th. Again, these rankings go through November 12th. But if you look at how the Mavs play from the second through the fourth quarters and combine all that together, it's absurd how it changes. They shoot 48.8% from the floor, which is good for 5th. They shoot 37.3% from 3, which is 8th. 78.8% from the stripe, which is 13th. 56.4% effective field goal percentage, which is 5th. And a 59.2% true shooting percentage, which is 7th. So clearly, their issues come in the first quarter. Then when you look at the fourth quarter, for some reason the fourth quarter, the Mavericks are shooting like crazy from 3. They have a 40.2% three-point field goal percentage in the fourth quarter this season. That's the 6th best in the NBA, and it's the 6th best fourth quarter three-point field goal percentage through the first 11 games of a season in franchise history, at least since the play-by-play era began in 1996-97. And it is the highest in the Luka Doncic era. So if the Mavs are shooting this well from 3 in the fourth quarter, despite being really bad in the first quarter, why are they losing close games? What gives? Well, their clutch numbers are a completely different story. The Mavs in the clutch this season are scoring only 7.7 points per game. That's only good for 25th. They shoot 27.8% from 3, which is tied for 19th. 71.4% from the free throw line, which is 21st. Remember, they led the NBA in clutch free throw percentage for most of last season. They finished in second. So to drop off this badly is a little absurd. But what's worse is they have a 135.6 defensive rating. That is 27th in the NBA. And their net rating is abysmal at minus 31. That is also 27th in the NBA. Now, there are even more numbers to crunch with the clutch defense of Dallas because none of this should be making sense for a team that prided themselves on defense in the last 20 games of the regular season last year. The Mavs' clutch defense this season, they're allowing 55.3% shooting from the floor, which is 26th. They're allowing 53.8% from 3, which is 28th. They have allowed 15 total second chance points. Now, they didn't give up any to Golden State, but they allowed 15 in their first 5 clutch games. So that's only good for 29th. Then their opponent plus minus is a plus 2.5. Which is 25th in the NBA. What this means is that opponents are outscoring the Mavericks by 2.5 in the clutch. Now, why is it that the Mavericks have had so much trouble in the clutch when they've been pretty good in the fourth quarter? Some of it can be attributed to the fact that they haven't had Derek Lively until their most recent game because of a shoulder injury. They're also without PJ Washington, who's dealing with a knee injury. Maxi Kleber is part of that center rotation. He's been out with a hamstring injury since the very first game of the season. So you have Daniel Gafford as your main center, and then your backup is Dwight Powell. And Gafford has been finding himself in foul trouble way more often than normal, which is kind of absurd. It's not just him. The whole team has been fouling at a much higher rate this season than they were a season ago. But all of those problems mixed together has just led to catastrophe when it comes to finishing games. Outside of all of that, despite all of that, you still have Kyrie Irving, who went off on the Denver Nuggets yet again. This time, he scored 43 points, shooting 17 of 22, which is 77.3%. That is his career best with the Mavericks. He also shot 6 of 8 from 3, grabbed 5 rebounds, dished 5 assists, and added a steal and a block. His 43 points set a new season high, and it was his 6th 40-point game with the Mavericks. So whatever you say, you're not going to blame Kyrie Irving. He's out here and he's balling. It's not him. Although, really, at this point, you can just lay the entire team's feet to the fire because the whole unit is not playing right in the clutch. Some of the internet chatter that's been going on has been about the comparison between Naji Marshall and Derrick Jones Jr., and there's a little bit of buyer's remorse. I don't think Naji is the issue, and I have numbers that can showcase why. He's been playing without Derek Lively and PJ Washington in a small sample size, of course, but in a bigger role. So in the 4 games without Derek Lively, he's scoring 14.3 points per game, shooting 64.9% from the floor, 36.4% from 3, and grabbing 5 rebounds. In the 3 games that he also did not have PJ Washington, he started and scored 12.3 points per game, shot 57.1% from the floor. His 3-point percentage is down at 22.2%, but he's still consistent with his rebounds at 5 rebounds per game. His 57.1% field goal percentage is his career best as a starter. And overall this season, he's shot 50.8% before the Warriors game. And it's not just these raw numbers that I think can tell a story or paint a picture about how Naji has been effective on the floor. He's also really efficient. Not only is he a stat stuffer like he was with New Orleans in seasons prior, he is one of those glue pieces that you might not see it on the box score all the time. You really have to just watch him play to know that he is being effective on the floor by his presence, by his ability to read defenses and facilitate the ball if necessary. He's kind of like a utility man almost. But his efficiency numbers are just outstanding for someone who is kind of thrust into the role that he is in. He's got an offensive rating of 116, a defensive rating of 106, a net rating of 9.9, and an assist to turnover ratio of 3.38. All of those are career bests, and those numbers do reflect up until the Warriors game, so right before it. Of course, there is more to be seen with the whole group, especially at full health. Because with everyone I just mentioned, somebody I haven't mentioned yet is Dante Exum. And where this Mavs team can go when everyone is there, compared to when you're missing 1 or 2, 3 or 4 guys, those can be differences with how Jason Kidd uses his lineups. Now, I don't think that he's done it well, but he is trying to figure stuff out. Will we see a change in future games? Probably. Hopefully. I don't know. Those aren't the only decisions that Jason Kidd has to get better at. He's also dealing with coaches' challenges, looking like he was 2 years ago compared to last season. But that's another story for another day. Something that Tim Cato talked about on the All City Network's Dallas Mavericks post game that they did after the Warriors game was that when he asked Daniel Gafford what was it about the rebounding issues, because one of the things that the Mavericks have been awful at is rebounding. They've been out rebounded in 8 of their 11 games so far. And on average in those games, they give up the margin is bigger than 5 in favor of Dallas's opponents as an average in every game. So what is it about these rebounds? Daniel Gafford answered, it's just effort. We just got to be better. I'm of the mindset that that's not good enough. Like maybe that's just me. I don't know what it is. Obviously, I've never played. I'm not going to act like I've played. I'm not going to act like I can play. But this is the same team that was dominating the glass, dominating the paint a season ago. Why is that so difficult now? The schematics are not the reason. It's just effort. I think the Mavericks know that they can get off to good starts. They can finish hard. They're just not. For whatever reason, that has to change. This can't go on. Even at sitting at 5 and 6. Like, you don't want to fall so far behind in a Western Conference that you're seeing teams like Oklahoma City, even without Chet Holmgren, blowing teams out. Golden State is resurging. Memphis is dealing with some injuries now, but they're not going to go away anytime soon. Houston is now within the playoff seeding. The Lakers are running through Anthony Davis. It's just that the West is so hard every single season that you could be 5 and 6 in the East and still be in the top 4. You can't do that in the West. So all of these margins are important. You have to take care of business, especially early in the season. And the Mavs are not doing that. So what's next for the Mavericks? They've got Utah in the only game that's being played on Thursday, November 14th. And then they have to play Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs again in Dallas, who's fresh off of a career performance that I'm going to get to later on in the show. So now, what's next? We're going to take a look at Oklahoma City, the conference standings, and see what's new with the NBA Cup. Don't go away. Some unfortunate news in Oklahoma City. Chet Holmgren will be out 8 to 10 weeks with a fractured hip. What does that mean for Oklahoma City? I'm going to give a bunch of stats of the team with and without Chet Holmgren since he was drafted in 2022. Now, these run through November 11th. That's where they end. The Thunder, with Chet Holmgren, since he was drafted, have a plus 8 points per game differential, shoot 49.5% from the floor, 38.5% from 3, record 6.6 blocks per game. They have a 107.8 defensive rating and an 8.4 net rating. When he's not on the floor, and this includes the season where he missed the whole year due to a foot injury, the Thunder had a plus 1.1 point per game differential, shot 46.6% from the floor, 35.6% from 3, recorded only 4.2 blocks per game, had a 111.6 defensive rating, and a 0.9 net rating. So obviously, the Thunder are much better with Chet Holmgren on the floor than when he's not on the floor. So what does that mean for a team that has now lost both of their centers in Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein? Well, it's not all doom and gloom as it was in the past, because they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is coming off of an incredible season where he made first team All-NBA, and he's just continuing that now. So let's see what he did Monday versus the Clippers. He scored a career high 45 points, shot 13 of 21 from the floor, 4 for 8 from 3, 15 of 16 from the free throw line, dished 9 assists, and had 5 steals. He is the first player in franchise history with 45 plus points and 5 plus steals in a game. This goes all the way back through the Oklahoma City years and the Seattle Supersonics years. Now, it's not often that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have a stat line like this, but he is very consistent and has been over the last few years. On top of that, he's a different player now than he was a couple of seasons ago when Chet first faced the injury to his foot. The Thunder are a different team now. They're more experienced. They're a little bit older. They're a little more cohesive. So although they don't have Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, are they able to tread water? I would say yes, because Shai is just a completely different player. He's the same player, but better. That's what I'm trying to get at. He's a better player now than he was a couple seasons ago, than he was even further behind that. And this is the depth that I see with OKC. It's not just SGA. It's not just J-Dub. They still have big men. They got J. Will. They'll use Kenrich at times. They have a wealth of players. Aaron Wiggins comes to mind. There are guys that they can use to at least hold the fort until Hartenstein comes back, because at this point, he's probably going to come back first. And then when Chet comes back, this team is just going to be a rocket ship. I think the Thunder are going to be fine. They might have some bumps and bruises with bigger teams. But for the most part, as long as SGA is there and he's doing his thing, the Thunder are going to be just fine. Since we've talked about them, they are the best in the West. Let's look at the Western Conference standings. So these standings go through November 13th, which gave every team in the NBA a chance to get to 10 games. OKC leads the way at 10-2. Right behind them, Golden State is at 9-2, just a half game back. Phoenix is at 9-3, Denver at 7-3, Houston is at 8-4, and the Lakers are at 7-4. Those round out the playoff teams. Currently in the play-in spots, Memphis is at 7-5, Sacramento is tied with them, and then at 6-6. Currently in the order, you have the Clippers at 9, the Spurs at 10, and the Timberwolves at 11. Then right behind them, Dallas is at 5-6, Portland at 5-8, New Orleans at 3-9, and Utah at 2-8. We're still early, but because every team has made it 10 games through, it's a good spot to check standings for now. We're probably not going to do that until we're 20 games in the next time around. Let's turn to the Eastern Conference standings. To lead the way, Cleveland is at 13-0. More on them later. Following them is Boston at 10-3. Then Orlando in third at 7-6. Then you have a bunch of teams between 4th and 10th, all within a game of each other. At 4th, New York is 5-6. At 5th, Indiana, also at 5-6. And then the next 3 teams are at 5-7. Chicago in 6th, Atlanta in 7th, and Brooklyn in 8th. Then Miami's in 9th at 4-6. Detroit is in 10th at 5-8. And then the last 5 teams that are in the hunt, Charlotte is in 11th at 4-7. Milwaukee, surprisingly, is in 12th at 4-8. Washington is 13th at 2-8. Philadelphia is 14th at 2-9. And at the bottom of the East, Toronto is 15th at 2-10. Now, I have Cleveland highlighted because they're the 6th team in NBA history to start 13-0, and the first since the 2015-2016 Golden State Warriors, who started that season 24-0. This 13-0 start, by the way, is the best in franchise history, and this is the only team in NBA history to start 13-0 while scoring an average of 121.8 points per game through the first 13 games of a season. Everything I've mentioned about Cleveland, I'm not going to say again. It's the same thing 1 week, 2 weeks, potentially 3 weeks later. What I will reiterate is that I still don't think that Cleveland is going to lose until they play Boston. And even then, I'm not sure if Boston can beat them at this point in time. They're going to meet real soon, though, because the Emirates NBA Cup has returned and Boston and Cleveland are in the same group. I want you to see who the groups are in the Emirates NBA Cup. I'm going to start with East Group A. Right there we have the New York Knicks, the Orlando Magic, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Charlotte Hornets. In East B, you have Milwaukee, then Indiana, then Miami, Toronto, and Detroit. And then in East C, this is where Boston and Cleveland will match up. Boston is there, Cleveland is there, Chicago is there, Atlanta is there, and Washington is there. Now, before I move on to the West, I want to make clear why the groups are ordered this way. It's a random pool, but if you're in the top 3 in the conference a season ago, then you are not going to be in the same group. The 1, the 2, the 3 will not be in the same group. Top 3 is the first rotation. Then it's 4 through 6, then 7 through 9, then 10 through 12, then 13 through 15. So you have each of those sections that will all be put into a group randomly. And that is how you get the groups that are there right now. And the same thing applies to the West. You will not see the top 3 seeds from last year be in the same group. And that's the same way for every set of 3 teams as it goes down the conference standings. So now let's go to the West. In Group A, you have Minnesota, the LA Clippers, Sacramento, Houston, and Portland. West Group B has Oklahoma City, Phoenix, the Los Angeles Lakers, Utah, and San Antonio. And then in West Group C, which might be the toughest group of the 6, the Denver Nuggets are there. Dallas is also there. New Orleans is there. Golden State is there. And then Memphis is also there. Outside of the name change from the NBA in-season tournament to the Emirates NBA Cup, which is a welcome change, there isn't much that has changed with the format of this competition. But there is one thing that did get changed when it came to tiebreakers. This is some new language involving the point differential tiebreaker, but only in regards to overtime. So here's the official language. Overtime scoring will not count towards the point differential and total points tiebreakers in the Emirates NBA Cup. A team's point differential will be 0 in group play games that go to overtime, and a team's total points scored will exclude points scored in overtime. I tried to scour the internet to see if this was a rule a year ago. I couldn't find any evidence that it was, so this looks like it's something new. Does it do anything? No. I don't see what it does. Outside of the fact that, obviously, the point differential in overtime is not going to count. Yes, I read that out loud. When you're in overtime, you're not thinking about point differential. You're trying to win the game. That's the bigger advantage, especially because in the NBA Cup, these games still count toward the regular season. So who cares at that point? We're still going to run into a situation where we're in December and you're going to have teams running up the score because point differential is still a tiebreaker when looking at the group play standings. So who does this help? Who does it hurt? Nobody. It doesn't do anything. I guess they tried to pat themselves on the back because they thought of something extra to throw into the tiebreakers, but I got to say, I'm not sure I see an effect with this one. So maybe this gets readdressed again next year. But for now, this is where we're at with tiebreakers. Now that we've taken care of that, I've got some top performers. Again, plural, not just one. I have 2 of them. Stick around to find out. If you've made it this far, welcome to the postgame. Here is the first top performer that I have. Domantas Sabonis had a perfect game November 6th at home against the Raptors. He scored 17 points, shot 6 of 6 from the floor, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, recorded 11 rebounds, 13 assists, and 0 turnovers. Why is this impressive? He's the first player in NBA history with a triple-double, 100% field goal percentage, 100% free throw percentage, and 0 turnovers since player turnovers were tracked in 1983-84. The other top performer just happened, and I had to include him. Victor Wembanyama, Wednesday at home versus the Washington Wizards, scored a career-high 50 points on 18 of 29 shooting, made a career-high 8 three-pointers out of 16 three-point attempts, shot 6 of 9 from the free throw line, recorded 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks. He is the 4th youngest player in NBA history with 50 points, and the youngest player in NBA history with 50-plus points, 8-plus three-pointers made, and 3 blocks, since blocks were tracked in 1982-1983. The next youngest person to do it was Luka Doncic on Christmas Day last year against Phoenix. So shout out to both Sabonis and Wemby for being the top performers for this episode. The next episode's rundown will feature an update on the Mavericks and around the league, as well as an update on the NBA Cup, and we'll look at some standings within group play. Next, I have an upcoming schedule. Friday, November 15th, NBA Cup group play. The Los Angeles Lakers take on the San Antonio Spurs at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, followed by the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors at 10 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, November 16th, the San Antonio Spurs visit the Dallas Mavericks at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Mavs TV. Sunday, November 17th, the Mavericks will be in Oklahoma City to play the Thunder at 7 p.m. Eastern on Mavs TV. And then Tuesday, November 19th, is also NBA Cup night. The Cleveland Cavaliers will play the Boston Celtics at 7 p.m. Eastern on TNT. And that is followed by the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on TNT. So that does it for me. Thanks for being here. Download this episode, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Let's hit the rollout.